Hello, welcome back to the Rankers for what for you must seem like a few days at least. For us is just a couple of minutes. And with me, I'm Kyle Wright, and with me again is Stuart McPhee. How are you again tonight, Stuart?
Carl, right, you son of a bitch. I am just as well as what I was 5 minutes ago when we last spoke.
So for those that don't know, we've just recorded some episodes back to back. Hopefully you enjoyed our previous episode on, hang on, what did we do? Oh, we did the 2024 review, that's right. And now we are getting in on the Triple J Hottest 100 fever. You can see that we're quite old, so the Triple J station really doesn't apply to us anymore. But it was a part of our past, and so we thought we'd do some reminiscing and do our own little ranking of and make our own little hottest 100. Did you have fun doing that, Stuart?
I did. I think I had even more fun when you explained it more detail because it was going to be what I thought an audacious task. So let me set the scene, and then you can actually explain what we are doing. Um, Kyle said, "How about we just do a Triple J sort of hottest 100 all time, but the scope of it would be the any song, well, what I thought was any song that had been in a hottest 100 list." So we quickly did a couple of things, which was we decided to eliminate the first three. So um, uh, for
So 91, 90, 91, 92.
That's right. So for those that don't know, the first three Triple J Hottest 100 uh, uh, counts were all time songs, and we wanted to make sure that it was sort of captured within the year that it was discussing. So we went from 93 onwards, um, and excluded any other additional all time lists.
They
Um,
had to be dedicated yearly countdowns.
yeah, dedicated yearly countdown. So um, Buggerlugs here decided to start, just putting an asterisk next to ones that I would consider. And like I said, I thought that I was choosing out of the thousands of songs, um, my favorite 100, and then ranking them. Which, look, I'm up for that task as much as anyone.
So am I.
And then, and then I think Kyle cottoned on when I said, look, I've already greenlit, over 400 or 500 songs for a short list of 100, and I'm not even at the ranking it part, and I'm only up to 2002. And that's when you intervened and told me exactly what we were doing. So I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, so before I get to that, 29th of January 2025, again, for those that have been paying attention. So, yes, so it wasn't all of the songs that have been ranked in the hottest 100 and then finding your favorite 100. It was actually finding your favorite from each pick. So, for those that aren't aware how the hottest 100 works, it's an Australian countdown every year, although maybe this year it wasn't an Australian countdown. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. Uh, Triple J, which is a youth radio station, which is supposed to be promoting songs for the youth, whatever youth is these days, who knows. And each year, used to be on Australia Day, if I'm correct, and they would count down the a fan voted Hot 100, so the best 100 songs voted by fans from 100 down to number one, and that would happen annually. Um, and so my idea behind it was we would choose the songs that have been picked at number 100, choose our favorite or one we think is best from that, then go to pick 99 and choose the one that we think is best or favorite from that. And I think once I explain that in a bit more clearly, I think that took a lot of weight off your shoulders there, Stuart.
Yes, certainly, because as we discovered, and the best thing Kyle mentioned this at the end of the last episode, but for those of you that haven't listened to that yet, there was a great archive on Triple J's website, which goes through all the different searching parameters, uh, where you can look at any song that finished at 100, all the songs from a certain year, songs from a particular band, and where all their songs charted, all those different things. Yeah, what it meant was that even if I didn't agree that, and I'll mention it now because I think it's number 60. It was my favorite song at number 60, which
Yep.
is Crowded House's Distant Sun. which isn't really a Triple J song, but
No.
we'll I'm not choosing my most Triple J song. I'm choosing the best song at number 60. To me, Distant Sun by Crowded House is one of my favorite songs of all time. It is, so it feels rough choosing it at number 60, but I'm just working with the parameters that we have, which is out of all the songs that ever got to number 60, this is, I think, the best song. So that's really the way we sort of think about it.
So it made it to your list as number 60. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
and
It
yeah,
it
yes.
also made mine.
Oh, there
So
you go. Yeah, you're a good
so
man.
using the search function, let's have a look at songs that finished 60th to sort of accentuate
Mm.
exactly what we were undertaking. So in 1993, obviously, was Crowded House's Distant Sun. So the first ever yearly dedicated Hottest 100 countdown. In 94, we got Pavement's Cut Your Hair. We've got 95 Teenage Fan Club's Sparky Dream. Pretty sure those ones aren't getting any close to, or getting very close to Distant Sun.
No.
Got Cooler Shakers, Hey Dude. They might be Giants, New York City. Anyone? Any DeFranco, Untouchable Face. Then we've got All Time 98, which we'll skip over. 99 has Vast Touch. Sinead O'Connor makes it in for No Man's Woman in 2000. At the Drive-In, Pattern Against User 2001. 2002, JXL versus Elvis Presley, A Little Less Conversation. So far, the biggest contender. 2003, Magic Dirt's Watch Out Boys. 2004, Your Wedding Night, Lachlan. 2005, the Danny Warhols, All the Money or the Simple Life, Honey. 2006, Hot Chip, Over and Over. 2007 has Kings of Leon, Charmer. 2008, Flight of the Conchords, Most Beautiful Girl in the Room. 2009, Lily Allen's 22. 2010, Children Collide, My Eagle. 2011, Joe Goddard with Gabrielle featuring Valentina. And then we don't really need to go past 2011 because I don't really recognize anything other than Jack White in 2012 with Love Interruption. And I recognize some names like Childish Gambino, Lion Cordial, DMAs, but I wouldn't know those songs all that well. So you can see that was the sort of process we went through.
Yes.
And I think you would agree with us if you're one of the demographics that listen to our podcast that Crowded House's Distant Sun is probably the best number 60 pick for the Hottest 100.
Yeah, well, and I think I know you and I probably sit more on the Smashing Pumpkins versus Pavement side of the conversation. But there'd be certainly a demographic that would go with Cut Your Hair by Pavement, or JXL, Elvis Presley, a little less conversation. But so that's what we're sort of talking about here. I think interesting you mentioned probably not thinking past 2011. My mea culpa is that I chose specifically not to go past 2007.
Okay.
On any of my lists. So even when we get to the more contentious top 10, I haven't even considered anything past 2007. And the reason for that is...
there's a reason.
Yeah, well, I just can't make up these decisions willy-nilly. 2007 was essentially the straw that broke the camel's back for me with the Hottest 100.
Okay.
And this was... And I know that there are other people who have got different reasons for opting out, and it was probably a mix of I had passed Triple J or Triple J had passed me. But when Knights of Sidonia got to number 1 by Muse,
yes,
in 2007, I hope I'm not ruining your number 1. That was to me, it's like, what are we doing here? Is that really the number 1 song? And I'm just trying to. We can talk more when we get close to it. But if I remember correctly, whatever was number 2 in 2007 was probably a better song. And I'm just looking at it. Yes, it was.
Of course it was.
Same with number 3. Same with. I think the best song was actually like number 7 or 8. Either way, yeah, that was game over for me. And it wasn't that I disliked Knights of Sidonia. It was, this is seriously not the best song of this year.
Okay, so for reference with what Stuart's talking about, in 2007, the number 1 pick by the fans was Muse Knights of Sidonia. Coming in at second place was Silverchair's Straight Lines. Third was Kings of Leon's On Call. John Butler Trio came in at fourth with Better Than. Faker was number 5 with This Heart Attack. Foo Fighters was 6th with The Pretender. You mentioned 7th or 8th, so let's go there now. Daft Punk was 7th with Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. And 8 was Cold War Kids, Hang Me Up to Dry. We'll just finish out the top 10 here. Number 9 was Soko, I'll Kill Her. And 10 was The Panics, Don't Fight It.
Yeah.
All right. I went a different tact. I don't have a lot after 2007. I think the latest one of mine was 2014, and that actually did make my was in my top 10, and I'll discuss that when we get to it. And I have a couple outside of that, and that was mostly because in that year it was, for me, wasn't as strong. There wasn't a song that stood out for me except for a later one. Probably one that I've probably got into since that year, to be fair. But for me was my favorite from that list anyway. I found it interesting. There were some picks that were really, really hard to pick. You had 10, 11 songs, or you could go either way. And basically I just went with, what's my favorite song of these 10 or 11? So I just went with that one. And there were other years I'm like struggling to go, maybe this one.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting process.
Yep. I think in the top 10, the only one that was real touch and go was maybe number 9, where I could have gone one or two of those. And I reckon there was maybe number 5 as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say number 5. I really went back and forth on that one.
Yeah, but then, common sense seemed to overrule. But anyway, here we are. So we've got our 11 to 100 out there in the open by now. So shall we crack on with our top 10?
Absolutely. Let's get to it.
And you know what the great thing about this top 10 is?
Yes.
Even if we've got the same one, we don't have to wait until later on because they're at the same.
That's exactly right.
That's probably the entire reason why you did this.
That's right. All right.
I'll let you go.
So, yeah, I'm just going to do... So most of my picks came from 96, 97, 97, 98, 99. I think I had around the 11, 10 to 9 for any of those years, which probably fits in well with the youth. So I would have been... that was my late teen years. So probably where you're kind of finding yourself as a musical consumptionist, if that's a term that people want to use. And you're probably breaking away from your parents' influence and more getting into your peers. Or what are they listening to? What's the cool thing to listen to? I was probably still a big Triple M listener at the time, but I'd cut in and out of Triple J. Funny enough, though, I probably didn't really start listening to the Hottest 100 until 2001, 2002, around that time. And I probably, the last time I think I sat down and listened to one, I think was 2009. So that's where I'm coming from with my list. The artist that featured the most for me was Silverchair with 7 selections in my Hottest 100. I think you mentioned...
Sorry?
I think you mentioned you had UMI as your highest. Is that correct?
Yeah, I reckon so. I was just having a look. Pretty much 93 to 98 is fairly solid in terms of entries. I think 94 had 15, 97 had 15. So that's where the bulk of them came from. And then, in terms of the artist, I think UMI probably got the most, and I mean, even that was only 4. So, there you go. I've got a fair few that have got double entries. The Verve, Pumpkins, Skunk Owl. Shout out to my Skunk Owl crew. Jeff Buckley, Kylie Minogue as well, got 2 entries.
Yeah, I got a Kylie Minogue in there too. Yeah,
there you go. But UMI was the most for me. and these have already been mentioned. So Berlin Chair, Purple Sneakers, Soldiers, and Good Morning. So there you go.
Lovely.
Yeah.
All right, I'll kick off. My 10th selection for my hottest 100 of all time is Silverchair's The Greatest View from 2002. Those who've been listening to this podcast would know how much of a massive Silverchair fan I am. I'm continuing the tradition of having an Australian as my 10th when I'm doing a ranking. I'm still holding out hope for an Oasis-like reunion for Silverchair to get to see them live, but I don't think you can encapsulate how massive this song was when it came out, The Greatest View. I think it was the first real massive radio play from the heavy Silverchair sounding from songs from their earlier albums, other than maybe Cemetery, but that's more of a ballad than a change in direction of sound. There's just something haunting in Daniel Johns' voice throughout this whole album, and on particular song. You can hear the pain and the anguish in his voice the whole way through this album, in particular on this song. Having a look at, let me get up the number 10s throughout time. You're looking at Tism, Jebediah's Leaving Home was a consideration, Chili Peppers' Scar Tissue, Powderfinger's Love Your Way, were my main contenders to challenge Silverchair's The Greatest View. But for me, Silverchair's The Greatest View is the number 10 song for me.
Look, this just shows how much of a coward you are. I know you want to pick Baby Bird, You're Gorgeous from 1996, but
just couldn't fit it in there.
This is the same for me. I chose Greatest View, Silverchair. So there you have it. I was absolutely not going to be choosing Scar Tissue, so that was easy. The Greatest View, yeah. So it was the first single from Diorama, and Silverchair, as much as certainly overseas people will perceive them as just this post-Cobain band, every album that they did was a progression. And it then got to the point when they got to Diorama where you go, this isn't the same as Frog Stomp. There's a smidge of connective tissue to maybe Freak Show. There's definitely a connection with Neon Ballroom.
Yep.
And so like I said, they continue to pick up certain elements and then drop things away. And then when they get to the last album, Young Modern, then that's the sort of at the center. I still think they peaked with Diorama in terms of an album. Yep. And The Greatest View being the first single from it. I remember, just eating everything up with this. So as listeners may know, and as you may know, I collect vinyl. I was one of the lucky ones to pick up. I think there was only 500 pressings of the first run of Diorama, which I have a copy of. It's now been since reissued, but I then made it a habit of trying to find everything from the Diorama album that was released on vinyl as a commercial single. So I've got, for sure, got the Greatest View single. There's
Is that Miss You?
12-inch. Maybe Love Your Life, I think, was also
That's
released.
the one, yeah.
Yeah, and not all the singles were released on vinyl, but through the years I've been able to acquire them. So I'm glad I've got them all. I think it was a great achievement, which was coming off the back of Neon Ballroom, which I thought was a phenomenal album as well. But this sort of just essentially went one step further in terms of certainly Daniel Johns' vision, and that's where you could also start to see the fracturing of the band in terms of what the other two guys were really wanting as opposed to what Daniel's ideas were. And it's not surprising he teamed up with Van Dyke Parks to do the strings on this album, and Van Dyke Parks was, a great collaborator with Brian Wilson, who was also a very much a singular genius. So yeah, Greatest View, number 10 for me as well.
Cracking start we are off to. So Neon Ballroom was sort of that bridging album, wasn't it? From the heavier stuff into the modern stuff. And what was interesting on that Diorama tour is they actually did the set in two parts, and they did the sort of softer stuff, if that's the right terminology, and then did the heavier stuff as the closing set. So that was a really awesome tour.
We may have gone to that gig together. That was at Entertainment Centre?
No, I don't think so. I went with Laura to that one.
I also went with Laura. Yeah. No. I reckon I went with Gillespie to that one. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I remember that one being at the Convention Centre. So
yes. Convention Centre. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to number 9? Would you like to go first this time?
Sure. So I was tossing up between The Cruel Seas, The Honeymoon Is Over, which is a phenomenal song, but I ended up choosing the song which I think I may have mentioned on this before, maybe when we did the 94 albums, El Scorcho by Weezer.
Oh, yeah.
This is the song that
love that song.
For many of my friends is the last song of the night. We put on it was the last song at my wedding. It's the last song at a few of my other friends' wedding. I mentioned in the previous podcast I was up on the Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago. The reason I was there for a good friend's engagement party. And we made sure that the last song we heard that night at about 1:30 in the morning was El Scorcho Weezer. It still goes down a tree. God damn you, half Japanese girls. So that's my number 9.
Yeah, look, number 9 was tough, wasn't it?
I think I know what you've chosen, but
there's the ones you've mentioned. There's UMI's Heavy Heart.
Heavy Heart, yep.
Pearl Jam's Last Kiss, Gorillaz' Clint Eastwood, Chili Peppers By the Way,
Paul Kelly's Every Fucking City as well is great.
Correct. Powderfingers Bless My Soul, Wolfmother's Joker and the Thief, Muse's Starlight, Muse's Uprising, Foo Fighters. Oh wait, that's an all-time one. And that's leading up to 2009. I was surprised that this band wasn't in my list earlier, but a lot of their earlier songs I'm not overly familiar with, and probably are more of their later songs anyway. But this is one of my favorite songs of all time, and that's Radiohead's Karma Police.
Yep.
So that's from 1997.
Yep.
So there's 2 Radiohead ones that have made my list, and they're both inside the top 10.
Okay.
And if anyone, this is off OK Computer. I think that was their 97 album.
Yep.
And it's just one of those songs that every time you listen to, you get something new out of it. It's just like it's similar to Greatest View and Daniel Johns' vision. This is, Radiohead's vision, and probably happened a bit earlier in their career, starting with that kind of sound. But yeah, I love that song so much. So that's made my number 9. Yeah. But that was a tough year, very tough year.
A tough position, you mean?
Tough position. I mean, yes. Sorry. Yeah.
It's a murderer's row, like Hilltop Wood, Nosebleed Section, Gorillaz, Clint Eastwood. Yeah. It's Tisms. Yeah, He'll Never Be an Old Man River. Even Tom Jones, If I Only Knew, from 1994.
Correct. That's where I thought you were going when you started.
Oh, really?
So, yes.
Big The Lead and How to Swing It fan, Tom Jones. Love it.
Yeah.
Right. Did you want to go with number 8?
So. I will. I'll kick off with number 8. So number 8, I've gone with this was a huge song on Australian radio at the time. I think it even crossed over into mainstream radio, and that's End of Fashion's Oh Yeah from 2005. Not a huge End of Fashion fan, but I did get to see them. It might be 2 or 3 years ago now. They were on a bill with Jebediah and Dallas Crane, so it was a bit of that early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, dream. And And I just remember this song being everywhere and such a sing along song, um, much like any of the top 10 songs are.
Mm,
But I don't know if you remember it as well as I do, but it pretty much dominated the radio for a very long time.
mm.
Again, look at the songs that it comes up against. Pearl Jam's Go from '93, even Marilyn Manson's Beautiful People from '97, Day You Come, Powderfinger, Nookie, Limp Bizkit, Generator, Foo Fighters. I mean, another tough year, but for me, I think my favorite song from some of those selections there is End of Fashion's Oh Yeah.
Yeah, no, I certainly remember End of Fashion. I remember so '05, that was certainly working in the record store, and remember very keen because I think they had a connection with, like, in the WA scene, like with Little Birdie and Sleepy Jackson and things like that.
Yep.
Um, I remember the guy sort of couldn't keep his lineup together, and they got unfortunately lumped with "You're Just Ripping Off the Pixies, Where Is My Mind." But still, yeah, a great tune. I went with uh, the uh, the song from the year after that, which is Gautier's "Heart's a Mess."
Yep.
So this is off Gautier's second album. Um, was it Drawing Blood? Is that what it's called? Anyway, Heart's a Mess is a phenomenal song. Speaking of guys with singular vision, I certainly hope that Wally, aka Gautier, comes up with something else again. Not necessarily to break the shackles of the whole one hit wonder thing that a lot of the US have lumped. And look, rightly so. I doubt he'll ever release another single again that will ever be as big as somebody they used to know. But I've
Future number one pick, if I'm correct.
for you.
No, for a Triple J Hottest
Yes,
100
yeah,
countdown, wasn't
correct.
it?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But for anyone who only heard that song and wants to hear something that's probably even more phenomenal, yeah, Hearts a Mess is the way to go. So that's my number 8 pick.
Very good. Let's go with your number 7 then while we're at it, Stuart.
Number 7 is a song that I've been listening to quite a lot because I am starting to put together a manuscript for a non-fiction book, which is actually ironically about songs that only got to number 2. It's called Born to Runner Up. It'll be released when I fucking finish the thing. But for now, this song certainly made it to number 1 all around the world, but only made it to number 7 in 2002, and that is Lose Yourself by Eminem.
Very good.
I mean, there are some absolute bangers at number 7 here.
Shall I mention some of them, Stuart?
You certainly can. I think that the reason, maybe I'll talk, because we don't need to wax lyrical about what Lose Yourself by Eminem is, because everyone knows it. But I think there's a couple of reasons why it's one of the very few rap songs where it's actually not sampled from anything.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not against that idea, because that's what hip hop is based on. But you got to give it points for that. The fact that it ended up winning the Academy Award for Best Song. It was number 1 for an up-teen weeks. But yeah, the list is pretty phenomenal. And yeah, I could have picked 3 or 4 other songs, to be honest. And you're just about to name them. So go ahead.
I will in a moment, but what I might do is go to 2000. Is 2002 correct?
Yes.
And let's look at the songs that got ahead of it. So in 2002, number 6, you got Machine Gun Fellatio with Roller Coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, you got the Vines with Get Free. Number 4, you got 1200 Techniques with Karma. Number 3, you got the Waifs with London Still. 2 is Grinspoon's Chemical Heart, and number 1 is Queens of the Stone Age with No One Knows. So, yeah, I guess being more of a rock station might be the reason why those songs got ahead of it.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a pretty it's a difference between, My Name Is,
Yeah,
uh, where that wasn't really a commercial station song,
Mhm.
and then Eminem Lose Yourself was everywhere,
Yeah,
absolutely everywhere.
true.
And so it was probably, fatigue at that stage. And I'm actually just trying to think what time of the year it was actually released. It may have been later in the run, but sometimes that helps.
Sometimes
Uh,
it helps, but it can also sometimes hinder in it not being in the next year's count and possibly going
yes,
higher.
yeah, correct.
All right. So your sevens, I love this song, Custard's Apartment. You've got Radiohead with Paranoid Android, Jebediah's Harpoon, one of my favorite Jebediah songs. Wait, that's an all-timer. Rage Against the Machine, Guerrilla Radio. Chili Peppers with Californication. We've got Weezer with Island in the Sun. Has there ever been a bigger radio song ever? Powderfinger's Sunsets, John Butler Trio, Something's Gotta Give, White Stripes, My Doorbell, Snow Patrol, Chasing Cars. While we're on Snow Patrol, it was interesting to see Run was like in the 80s or 90s. I'm sure if that year was redone, that would be a lot higher. That's a best of again. Obviously there might be, well, not obviously, there may be better songs post 2011, but I doubt it. So a tough list to choose from.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to remember the About a Girl, that's the unplugged version as well. That would have had to have been, I think.
It could be, 1994. So
yeah, because that was off Bleach, I think. And yeah, I think in my the very stew pick would have been Lemon by U2.
Really?
Big fan of that one, but there you go. So what did you choose, sir?
I went with the artist that appeared second most on my countdown, and that's Powderfinger's Sunsets from the following year, 2003. Obviously, I'm a huge Powderfinger fan. I really love this album. Sunsets is just a song. Every time I hear it, I belt it out. It is a great song. Film clip's fantastic as well. I think a bit of an anime on that one. Powderfinger really knew who they were as a band coming into this album. They knew how to write a radio song, a radio hit, and this is one that's elevated for me above songs like My Happiness and those more popular ones. And I actually think it's a better song than those. It's one of my favorite Powderfinger songs. So I've gone with Powderfinger's Sunsets for my number 7 in my hottest 100 countdown.
There you go. We'll have to have a Powderfinger specific countdown or ranking because
I'm in.
Yeah, because I have differing views on sunsets, but there we go. I know.
Oh my. I don't know if we can continue this podcast.
I think we can.
Okay, all right. All right, I'll do my number 6. My number 6 actually comes from 2014, and it's one of those songs that as much as I really didn't want to like it, I absolutely fucking love this song. And it's Mark Ronson featuring Bruno Mars with Uptown Funk. And anyone who knows this song will know exactly why it's a song that you definitely cannot hate. Even though you might not like it, you're still going to sing along. You're going to dance. You know every single word to it. And every time it comes on, you're not skipping the station. You're not moving on to another song. You're actually listening to this song all the way through. If I shall look at the other number 6 options to see what competed with it, there was Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name, which might be one of your picks. You've got Powderfinger's Pick You Up, a great early one from theirs. Everclear's Heroin Girl, Veruca Salt's Seether, Blink-182's Damn It, not one of my favorites either. Regurgitator song formerly known as Bloodhound Gang, The Bad Touch. Alien Ant Farm, Smooth Criminal, one of the best covers of all time. Cat Empire's Hello, Missy Higgins' 10 Days, Wolfmother's Mind's Eye, Foo Fighters' The Pretender, and then we move on into our later years. Arctic Monkeys, Why Didn't You Call Me When You're High from 2013. I'm assuming this isn't on your list, Stuart, so would you like to say anything about that song?
No, it's not. Well, no, because it's past 2007.
No, true.
Yeah.
Would it have been a consideration had you have gone past 2007?
Ronson? Yes. Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's up against some very stiff competition.
It is, isn't it?
When you come out of the gate with Killing in the Name as in '93 and Seether in '94, that's sort of
I
hard to
know,
beat.
right?
I have though.
That, but that does prove how much this song has impacted on me because I'm like, there's new stuff, and then every time it comes on, it's just such a damn good song.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, good tune. I went to '06 and I chose Crazy by Niles Barkley.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, sort of as a 1-2 with Eminem, Lose Yourself, this was pretty ubiquitous in '06. It's sort of, a group that sort of came out of nowhere and you go, well, what's all this about? And, that'll be probably the only song that Niles Barkley will be known for, but that's also fine. Sometimes you need those
Absolutely.
as one-off pop gems.
And where would we be without the knack?
Sure. Absolutely.
One hit wonders deserve a place in history.
Yeah. Although they should have been first against the wall with their skinny ties, but
That's
I mean the nonsense that they were going to be the next Beatles makes no sense. Crazy Niles Barkley was mine. Having a look at that list, as I said, it was very much Killing the Name and Seether I was considering. But yeah, in terms of Powderfinger, Pick You Up, that would have been pretty close. If I was making my most Triple M, Triple J list, maybe that's a good exercise.
Why not?
Mm.
All right, I think you're up to give us your number 5 first there, Stuart.
Yeah, and
what have we got? This was one of my toughest ones.
So. Yeah, I think we've chosen the same, which is Tomorrow by Silverchair.
We have not.
No? Okay. So Tomorrow is the song that put Silverchair on the map. I'm now looking at the list, realizing you've chosen Backdoor Man by Pauline Pants Down. Apologies for spoiling that for you. I was probably choosing between the song that came in the '93 list. Is that what you've chosen?
It is not.
No. Okay. So Cannonball by the Breeders was going to be a close second. Dare by Gorillaz is also pretty good. Tomorrow by Silverchair, that is pretty much the patient zero in terms of the Silverchair story. It's where everything kicked off, and I remember very clearly the sort of the fever going around the schoolyard when that song was released.
Absolutely. I'm going to actually go have a look at this 94 countdown and see which songs made it ahead of Tomorrow. For those playing along at home. Yeah. So in front of Silverchair, you got this is interesting. At number 5, you got Silverchair Tomorrow, obviously. At number 4, you got The Offspring, Come Out and Play. Number 3, you've got The Offspring also with Self-Esteem. 2 is Nine Inch Nails with Closer, and number 1 is The Cranberries with Zombie. This just goes to show.
Sorry, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Tomorrow was very, very late in the piece.
Yeah, it would have been.
In terms of late year.
Late release in the year, yeah.
And you also have to remember back then, you had to fill out a form and send it in. This is no doing it on an app that the kids are used to these days.
Or even on the internet.
Internet, eh? There's no information superhighway back then, kids.
Was there call-in? Could you call in a vote? Something like that?
Not 94, I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, where I lived, we only just got Triple J that year. So I'm pretty sure you couldn't call in. I'm pretty sure you had to go to a record store and there would be a notepad, the entry form, and you'd complete that. I'm pretty sure that was done back then.
Yeah, it just goes to show how big that Smash album was and why I was justified at having it as number 1 in our 1994 countdown. A little spoiler for those that haven't listened to our top albums of 1994. Please go and have a listen to that after this podcast. Shall we get to my number 5?
Yes.
You were extremely close there, Stuart. You're in the right decade, but I've gone with 1995's number 5 pick. And it's Bjork's "It's Oh So Quiet."
Yeah. Right.
I remember when this song came out, I was just like drawn to it. I was like, the particularly there's a around the time I was watching a lot of Rage and Recovery, so the film clips and things like that.
Mm.
And this film clip was sort of like a musical style of number. And who's this Bjork woman? She's essentially the newest Yoko Ono, and this is her probably only really good song. I love this song so much. Again, a lot of competition. Placebo's Every You, Every Me is a number 5. The Vines, Get Free. Spiderbait's Black Betty. Even Scissors Sisters, I don't feel like dancing. Fakers, This Heart Attack, which was a huge song at the time in 2007. So yeah, but for me, this one just stood out for me as soon as I was originally going to go with Tomorrow, and then looked up at the next one and went, no, I'm now going with It's Oh So Quiet from Bjork, which is my number 5.
Very good.
Thoughts on that song, Stuart?
Well, no, really good song. I thought for a second you were going to choose Glycerine by Bush, and we're going to end the podcast right now. Bush, that's first against the wall when the revolution comes.
Well, having from memory from our 1994 podcast, that album was released in the December of 1994, which probably gave it a good year of, it would have been pumping out on the radio at the beginning of that year. So no wonder that one was so high on the list.
Yeah,
for 1995.
I will give Bush, I think, Come Down, I quite liked, and a later song, Letting the Cables Sleep. And that's only the remix version of it. But
I actually saw them live on the ill-fated Great Southern Stars tour a couple of years ago, and they were actually really, really good live. I really enjoyed them. Yeah.
Good for them.
All right. Sorry?
Good for them and good for you.
So true. All right, my number 4.
Yes.
I've gone with the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony. Is that one that has made your number 4 there, Stuart?
It is, yes.
It is. All right. Anyone who's an Oasis fan and heard this one on Rage in the Morning was going to be instantly drawn to this. I'm not sure if they were playing off the, the cover of What's the Story, Morning Glory, in the film clip where he's, what's his name, Richard Ashcroft, he's strolling down the street, kind of trying to kind of maybe dive into that Oasis fandom with that look of that, the cover there. Obviously having the Rolling Stones as the, if I think I'm correct there, with the string backing to that song, and it's just such a catchy song. Having listened to a bit of the Verve's back catalogue, it's their only good album. I don't enjoy too many of their other albums, and this is clearly their best song. Your thoughts on this one, Stuart?
Yeah, I think as a standalone song, it's still pretty out there. I still think the other singles from Urban Hymns.
Oh, it's a great album. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But the other singles I quite like.
Yeah.
I prefer to listen to more. Things like the Drugs Don't Work and Lucky Man and Sonnet, I think, was the other single.
Sonnet's a crap.
But yeah, Bittersweet Symphony is just a great piece of music, and you compare it to all things lead back to Be Here Now. Released the same year as Be Here Now. I think it was towards the end of the year though. But it was that sort of thing of there is still there's still the hopes of what Britpop can continue to be. Of course they broke up after this, and Richard Ashcroft went on his own, and I think his first solo album was pretty good. And then it tailed off dramatically after that. And I think, when you have a song that is just so grand, it starts to overshadow the rest of things, and which is in a similar way to do you know what I mean? Starting to overshadow the rest of Be Here Now. And I think I mentioned on that podcast episode around I remember first hearing Be Here Now and just feeling exhausted after the first couple of songs and needing a nap. And it was a similar way with the Verve. And I think I started listening to Urban Hymns, sort of starting at track two. And all that is to say that this sort of works on its own. And I think if Urban Hymns was just this song and the rest of the album was dog shit, then you can sort of put this up as being a great tune. But it's I mean, and I still have chosen it, but it is one that it 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 provides further rewards the album as you listen to it, knowing that whilst this is great, there is some other gold here as well. So
Absolutely.
anyway, but yeah, maybe it's also worth talking about some of the other songs that got to number 4. But your other thoughts on the song?
Yeah, no, I don't have much more to say on that. I was about to head into what were the other 4s. So for those playing at home, do you agree with us or not? So Blind Melon's No Rain. We got Offspring's Come Out and Play. President of the United States of America with Kitty, which actually finished further down the list than Lump, which I think was at 11. Butthole Surfers with Pepper.
Yeah,
really interesting song, that one.
Yeah, that was on my shortlist, that one.
Yep. I'm a huge fan of Hole, and Celebrity Skin is one of my favorite songs of theirs. That also finished 4th in 1998. Fatboy Slim, Praise You. Wheatus, Teenage Dirtbag. So when we're getting into these lower numbers, we're not always getting the best songs out there. We're getting the most popular songs out there, obviously with Teenage Dirtbag being one of those contenders. Powderfingers, Baby I Got You on My Mind was on my short list as well. Killers, Somebody Told Me. Foo Fighters, Best of You. Killers, When We Were Young. John Butler Trio, Better Than. Empire of the Sun, Walking on a Dream. Birds of Tokyo, Plans. And Arctic Monkeys, Do I Want to Know, in 2013. And then for those interested, you can get on the site and have a look at the ones past 2013. I think we've covered that one well enough. Let's move on to number 3. And what do you have as your number 3 there, Stuart?
Yeah, this is where things start getting. This one is a 1 for me, which is I chose The Waifs London Still, which I know is absolutely not one that you have chosen.
No, but it's a song that I like.
So this, remember very clearly when the song came out, which I reckon was early 02. And in fact, I know it was early 02 because I took a trip to the UK to catch up with a good friend of mine who she had just moved over there about 6 months prior, maybe. And when the song came out, I because I took her a copy of it over there for her. The theme of it was very much of someone living in London, and almost someone writing a letter back home. And I could, whilst I hadn't been in that situation, I could feel, I could understand what my friend was probably going through, which is the sense of that shitty weather. We're in the middle of winter. I'm still here in London. I'm missing friends and family terribly, but there's some other good things that certainly come out of it. And so it was very much an of the time. That's why I chose London Still. But there's a plethora of number 3s here that anyone on any other day I could have chosen.
Oh, absolutely. And anyone who decides to put themselves through this exercise, you'll see you get down to number 3 and you've got songs such as The Cranberries' Linger, Offspring's Self-Esteem. This is one I thought you might pick out of the box, was Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise. Ben Fold 5's Underground, Chumbawamba's Thumb Thumping, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. A song close to my heart is Custard's Girls Like That Don't Go for Guys Like Us. Powderfingers, My Kind of Scene. System of the Down, Chop Suey, another big song over here in Australia. This one I came close to putting as my number 3, the White Stripes' Seven Nation Army. Eskimo Joe, I love this song, From the Sea. And then in the late 2000s decade, you got Kings of Leon, On Call, and Use Somebody a year apart in '07 and '08. However, I've gone for 2005's Gorillaz Feel Good Inc.
Yeah.
Loving what Damon Albarn was doing with this, particularly this early Gorillaz stuff. The later Gorillaz stuff, let's not talk about that. And this was just such a cool song. It had, if I'm not confusing this one with Clint Eastwood, it had the acoustic parts to the song and the more like funkier parts of the song, and was just so really like just a cool song. And I'm like, this is the guy from Blur. So I really enjoyed this song, and it was so hard to choose a song at number 3, but for this one stood out for me, and one of my favorites of all time with Gorillaz Feel Good Inc.
Yeah, the first 2 albums in particular are just really really good. I think Dare from the same album was maybe got to number 5 or 6.
It was in the top 10 at least.
It was got to number 5. So was that the same year it was? So yeah, they got 4 and 5 in 2005. Sorry, 3 and 5. My apologies. We're up to number 3 already. Very very cool blend of it's a whole mix of electronic, hip hop, as you said, acoustic. Very very good stuff.
All right, Stuart, you're number 2. Oh, hang on. That's me first.
Yes.
This is my second of the Radiohead songs. I've gone with Creep. So again, let's have a look at the 2s you can choose from. So 1993 is Creep. 9 Inch Nails, Closer in '94. It was hard not to put this one as my number 2. 1995, Smashing Pumpkins, Bullet with Butterfly Wings. Tool makes an appearance with Stinkfist. Blur, who we were just talking about, is song 2. Ben Lee's Cigarettes Will Kill You. Surprisingly, Ben Lee made a lot of top 10s. He was very popular in the Triple J countdowns. Killing Heidi's Weir. What a song that was all over the radio. U2's Beautiful Day, Something for Kate Monsters, Grinspoon, Chemical Heart, Outcast, Hey, Missy Higgins, Scar, Ben Lee, Catch My Disease. Did I not just say that? Eskimo Joe, Black Fingernails, Red Wine, Silverchair with Straight Lines, MGMT, Electric Feel, and we'll stop at 2000. Actually, I'll go to 2011 on this one. 2009, Art vs. Science, Parlez-vous Français, and then 2011, the Black Keys, Lonely Boy, which was a pretty massive hit, going around, and Goit. Oh wait, that's the top decade 20s. So yeah, I went with Radiohead's Creep. Not really getting into Radiohead when they first started out. I think this was one that popped out. I would, what was the one that I had earlier in my list? It was Karma Police. I would actually rank that higher if I was doing my own personal list. But from these ones, or by heart, you could choose any of those and they'd be valid number 2 picks. But I'm just a massive fan of this song. I love it. I mean, get a bit angsty, rip out some Creep and sing along. That's what I love to do anyway. I'm assuming you haven't gone Radiohead with your number 2 there, Stuart?
I haven't gone with. No, and look, there were quite a lot of really close ones. Cass Hayes, Scar, Missy Higgins, Monsters, Something for Kate, and Butterfly Wings, but I've chosen Closer by 9 Inch Nails. It is an absolute tune, and I think I mentioned on the 94 podcast, I remember there was a commercial radio station in Gladstone that played like a 45, 50-second version of Closer. I hope I'm not making this up because I'm pretty sure it happened, where you go, what is this? And why am I only hearing bits of it? And then when I hear the full version, I understand. It is, the absolute apex of industrial music. And I am buoyed by the fact that Reznor is downing tools on his soundtrack work, and looks like they're going to go out on tour as Nine Inch Nails, and hopefully new music comes very, very soon.
Very good. All right. Before you announce your number one here, Stuart, I'm actually going to go through every number one that up to about 2014, 15 that could have been in play for our number one.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it felt like the number ones probably weren't as strong as some other numbers. For instance, fifth picks,
Yep.
even third and second picks. But hey, the selection is in the vote of the people. So
Yep.
let's go through. So we'll start with 93, Dennis Leary's Arsehole, which is a cracking song.
Mm-hmm.
94 is The Cranberries with Zombie. 1995, the one and only Oasis with Wonderwall, who also got top spot again when they did a 20 years countdown in 2013. Spiderbait was 96 with Buy Me a Pony. I love this song from the Whitlams in 97 with No Aphrodisiac. 1998, The Offspring with Pretty Fly for a White Guy, believe it or not. Yeah, we got a double up with Powderfinger in 99 and 2000. 99 with These Days and 2000 with My Happiness. 2001 was Alex Lloyd's Amazing. 2002, Queens of the Stone Age, No One Knows. 2003, Jet came in with Are You Gonna Be My Girl? 2004 was Franz Ferdinand, Take Me Out. 2005 was Bernard Fanning going solo with Wish You Well. 2006 was Augie March with One Crowded Hour. 2007 was Muse with Knights of Sidonia. 2008 was Kings of Leon with Sex on Fire, which is probably the last countdown I really dedicated myself to sit down and listen to. 2009, Mumford & Sons with Little Lion Man. I do remember this one, Angus and Julia Stone with Big Jet Plane in 2010. And we mentioned this one earlier. 2011 was Goitier with Somebody That I Used to Know featuring Kimber. Let's see if there's any of note past then that I would recognize, other than knowing who the Wiggles are, knowing who the DMAs are. I don't really recognize a lot of those acts, let alone the songs. So let's stick with what we know here, Stuart. And you get to kick us off with your number one. We know it's not going to be Muse's Knights of Sidonia, or however that is pronounced. And who have you gone with, Stuart?
So
Shall I take a stab in the dark here, Stuart?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Does he go that way and I go that way? Not past 2007. Let's go with the Whitlams' No Aphrodisiac in 1997.
It's a very good selection. That isn't it. My process for picking number one, and it was the only time I took this into account, was if you're going to get number one on a voting system, it has to be now something that feels like it's not only enduring, it made sense that it made number one in that year, but also the other wrinkle that I put on it, and that's what helped me decide, was discounting anything from past 2008, obviously, is if this song was released right now, would it still sound as fresh?
Okay.
And based on all that,
You don't think Knights of Sidonia is that?
No.
Okay.
Based on that, I've chosen Pretty Fly. No, I have not chosen.
That would absolutely blow my mind if you chose that song.
I know. No, but so based on all those factors, I couldn't go past Take Me Out by Franz Ferdinand.
Oh, really?
I zagged.
When you were going down that sort of line of discussion, yeah. I'm thinking 1994's Zombie by the Cranberries.
It's probably not even in my top three's Cranberry song.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Actually, no.
Interesting.
It's three. Yeah.
Interesting.
I linger in dreams above Zombie, but here we are.
Salvation's my favorite of theirs.
Salvation's a good tune. But yeah, Take Me Out by Franz Ferdinand. The whole first sort of minute and a half sounding completely different to the rest of it. it was at that really great juncture in UK music where angular guitar music was making a bit of a comeback, and it was sort of the response to the response. Britpop had sort of led the way with guitar stuff post grunge, and then there was a bit of a fallow period where everything sort of seemed like it was going to the Total Request lives of the world, the boy bands and Britney Spears and Aguilera. Then you got the Strokes and all the other New York City bands, and then this was the response back from the mother country. So things like Franz Ferdinand and Block Party in particular, that real sort of spiky guitar sound.
Yeah, Kaiser Chiefs, I think you could put them in that
Chiefs,
as well.
What's that idiot, Pete Doherty and whatever band that he had. There was Baby Shambles and the other one.
Baby Shambles, yeah.
I think he had another group as well. Future Heads, and the list goes on and on. Probably the only time Future Heads will be mentioned in this, but I certainly remember. It was a great period for Q Magazine, the British music mag, and all this sort of music, because picking up the NME wasn't easy in Australia, but getting Q Mag was the closest to it, and seeing a lot of these bands always on the cover. But take me out off the first album. I think they've just released a new album this year, or
yes, they have
2 weeks ago. I'm yet to check that
last year, yeah.
But they sort of they started their career with an absolute banger.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if that song was released now, it would still be a hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I've gone, when I came up with my number one, I went back and forth, even though I didn't think it was as strong as some other numbers. It was. I wanted to go Wonderwall, but I thought that would be a bit too obvious. Up until about an hour ago, I had a Knights of Sidonia. But no, in all seriousness, I actually went with the one that I thought you would go with. Not because I thought you would go with it, but because 1997's No Aphrodisiac from the Whitlams is just such a... it was just such a different song for the time. Like, you had... obviously Powderfinger is just starting to kind of go. You got the fun of Custard and Regurgitator, mostly referring to Australian music, and then you've got Silverchair with their heavier sound at this time period, and out come the Whitlams with this sort of piano-based ballad that just is so easy to listen to, so fun to sing along to, and what's his name? Tim, who's the lead singer? Tim something, anyway.
Tim Friedman?
Possibly.
Yeah,
possibly.
I was going to Tim Whitlam, but it's not Tim Whitlam.
Yeah, no, it's not Tim Whitlam. From the Whitlam. And it was sort of like as I was getting into my political stage, as every... because I was just about to turn 18 to vote. So that kind of struck a chord with me at that time in my life as well. I actually distinctly remember having the 97 Countdown CD or the Whitlam CD to buy, and because back then you couldn't just stream whatever the fuck you wanted to. You had to actually make a choice with how much were CDs back then? $36 to buy a CD. So I had them both in my hand, and I'm about to go to the counter. I had to make a choice. I ended up going with the Countdown one because I had more artists and I knew the songs, but I was very close to buying that Whitlam's album. And they've done a lot of good stuff since then. And of all the number ones there's probably songs that I favorite more, such as Are You Gonna Be My Girl, or even Take Me Out, and the Kings of Leon song. But for me, that was the standout number one, behind Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
Yeah, nice. And it was sort of a...
That was a joke, by the way.
Yeah. No, I know the real Kyle would have gone for Pretty Fly for a White Guy, not the fraud that I see in front of me. and it was a period we mentioned Ben Folds Five, with Underground and ballads like Brick, and um, that there was just this period where there's a couple of piano led hits, which it sort of felt like you know piano hadn't been heard on commercial
Good
radio.
point.
Billy Joel, Elton John, and then or Bruce Hornsby in the Range, and then all of a sudden, you're hearing piano songs again, which was great. It was a brief period, but it was one that it probably has inspired other bands, or uh, kids who then grew up to form bands and to have piano as part of the repertoire. So it was an interesting time, and that Whitlam's album just it just caught fire. I remember,
Didn't
and
it?
yeah, it was pretty deserving number one that year. So good stuff. Yeah, as you said, it was you're really starting to get down to personal taste, but yeah, you could have we both could have picked Wonderwall and just done this and go, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next thing that we're going to choose Oasis as number one. But given that we started this whole thing off with our own Oasis rankings, and neither of us had Wonderwall, I think, in our top 3 or 4 memory. It's, I guess, for us, it's not that surprising that we didn't choose it. So
even though probably without that song, we're probably not Oasis fans. So
no, that's right. Yeah, correct. Without you, I'm nothing.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed going on this little journey with us down the rabbit hole that is Triple J Hottest 100 Countdowns. I think we should touch on before we finish, I should say, is that the controversy around this year's countdown, which I think has the least amount of Australian artists, I think, in a decade. So that would be the 2014 countdown.
Yep.
And my thoughts on this is Australian acts in particular have built their fan base around festival dates in particular. Big Day Out comes to mind, Splendour in the Grass, even Falls Festival, which have all, if not permanently gone to the wayside, are probably looking to go that way, particularly with Splendour now being out of action for 2 years in a row. And by bringing in those major artists to those festivals, the Australian acts would then fill the earlier slots. As people are drinking and getting ready for the bigger acts, they're getting exposed to those Australian artists who I remember seeing Casanovas at a Splendour in the Grass and going, oh my God, that's the new Motley Crue. And so then I became a Casanovas fan. And I really think that the dying of festivals has really impacted the Australian music industry, and is probably a reason, or one, if not the major reason, why there's not a lot of Australian acts being voted for in the latest Hottest 100. Not that I would know any of the songs in the countdown, not that I listened to the countdown, but given that that's some of the commentary coming out of the most recent countdown, that's my thoughts on why there's probably not a lot of Australian content on there at the moment. Your thoughts?
Look, I probably am not in a position to comment on it, only because I don't listen to Triple J anymore. I'm certainly in a Double J era now, with if anything, and I don't have time to listen to that anyway. But the times that I do, they certainly seem to have a nice balance of Australian and international content, and bands, certainly Aussie acts that I've come across over the last couple of years have all been, via Double J. So, I can't speak to what Triple J's programming is on when they program, Australian music. I always remember when, Triple M would be caught out on this, and then they go, oh, no, we play X amount of new Australian music, and it was always between the hours of, 1 in the morning to 4 in the morning, as a bit of a dump to go, well, we've met our quota. So there's all those things to it. Similar to our previous episode where we were talking about music, where sometimes you'll have dips, and you really can't, particularly uh, looking at a single year and going and making a decision on where Australian artists sort of sit. But you are also in a period where any sort of chart or voting system, and I'm this is where I can talk about because this is what I've been writing about in terms of the book that I've been putting together is because of the prevalence of how easy it is to vote now and how easy it is to have bulk voting happening or even bot voting happening. It starts to muddy the waters in terms of what is legitimate or not. Now, you can go back to our punching bag of Pretty Fly for a White Guy or Asshole by Dennis Leary as being joke number ones, but there has always been an element of tomfoolery that goes on. And I'm not suggesting that there's anything sinister in this particular year. And was it Chapel Roan that won it? It doesn't have to be an Australian that wins it.
No.
But if this year is drastically reduced as opposed to previous years or the average of previous years, that would that wouldn't be a real concern until you start seeing that as a trend. So I guess all of that is to say there's a number of different factors for the reason why that is the case. And I don't think any, I think it's a mix of all those three or four as opposed to, the actual artists themselves not releasing decent music, because there's always an audience there. It's just, you got to have stations like Triple J promoting it too in order for it to reach a listener. So
very good. All right. Well, we might finish our Triple J Hottest 100 countdown discussion there. And then we'll have to, with 2 episodes in one night, we'll have to think of something for our next ranking podcast. If you have any ideas out there, please get on to us and let us know. We'd love to rank something that you would love us to rank. So unless you've got anything further you'd like to say there, Stuart?
No, all good, mate.
No? All right. If you have joined us in this journey, our social media dumps of our top 100 through to 11 and then bothered to sit through this podcast, we thank you. Any feedback you have, if you want to give us your own 100, we'd love to hear from you as well. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, please give us a 5-star ranking. We'd love that from you. All right. Thanks again. And just remember, you got to keep them separated.